Hey, tonight, we're heading back to the real Jerusalem. Not the one from children's books or clean pastel paintings, but the crowded, sweating, blistered city of 28 AD. The city where the sun is brutal, the laws are strict, and nobody is handing out hand sanitizer. You might think you could handle it, but the chances are that you wouldn't last a day, and by the end of this story, you'll understand exactly why. If you enjoy these immersive journeys into the world behind the Bible, a quick like or even a subscribe helps more than you know. Also, let me know where you're listening from and what time it is. I love seeing our little nighttime community stretch across the world. Now, go ahead, dim the lights, maybe grab a blanket or turn on a fan for that soft hum. We're about to take a slow walk through a fast-moving, sacred city. Congratulations, you've just woken up in ancient Jerusalem, the holy city. The year is 28 AD. And your first challenge? Survive the next 12 hours. Your eyes blink open to a world that isn't yours. The first thing you feel is the rough straw poking through the thin mat beneath you, each stalk leaving tiny imprints on your skin. A dull ache spreads through your hips and shoulders from the unyielding stone floor. The wool blanket wrapped around you smells of smoke and sheep, its scratchy fibers irritating your skin. A chill seeps through the cracks in the stone walls. Dawn is coming, but not fast enough. Around you, the dark room hums with the soft rustle of sleep. At least 6 family members share this space, their quiet breathing and occasional snores filling the stale air. Someone's elbow presses into your ribs. Outside, a donkey brays, followed by the distant shouting of merchants already setting up stalls. A rooster crows, though it's still too dark to see the sun. You start to sit up, and the motion stirs the dust beneath you. It rises into the air, tickling your nose and throat. The room is barely taller than you are standing, its low ceiling supported by crooked beams of timber and packed earth. There are no windows, just the faint orange glow of last night's fire smoldering in the corner. Your throat is dry. You think of water. There's no sink, no bathroom, no faucet, just thirst and dust. A child stirs in the corner, and a woman hushes them with a soft whisper. Across the room, an older man groans as he shifts on his mat. The air is thick with the scent of unwashed bodies, stale lamp oil, and the lingering aroma of lentils from the night before. You rub your eyes, and your fingers come away gritty. The dust here clings to everything: your skin, your clothes, even your tongue. Then your stomach turns as your eyes settle on the clay pot in the corner. It's the only bathroom this home has, shared by everyone, emptied when someone remembers. There's no privacy, no flushing, just a necessary ritual everyone pretends not to notice. You look away, but the thought lingers. This isn't an emergency workaround. It's daily life. A breeze sneaks in through the doorframe, carrying with it the warm, yeasty scent of baking bread from a neighbor's oven. Your stomach growls. But before there is eating, there is order. A woman, mother, aunt, perhaps a sister, motions for you to be still. She lights a small clay lamp, and its flickering light reveals faces around you. Familiar, expectant. The day has already begun, and you are behind. The floor is cold beneath your feet as you rise. Someone hands you a wool tunic and a rough cord for a belt. The fabric is stiff, scratchy, and heavy with dust. No choice. This is what you wear. Outside, the world is stirring. You hear goats bleating, tools clattering, and the first cries of vendors cutting through the morning air. Barley, milk, baskets. A baby begins to cry nearby, its voice overlapping with the soft chant of morning prayers drifting from a neighbor's doorway. There are no showers, no coffee, no quiet moment to gather yourself. Just the endless push of people, routine, and obligation. You inhale, warm, dusty, thick with the smoke of dung fires and fresh bread, and move toward the door. The day won't wait for your confusion. Jerusalem is already alive, humming, sweating, praying, and now, ready or not, so are you. Your stomach growls as you smell the bread warming over the fire, but before you can reach for it, your aunt pushes a clay pitcher into your hands. She motions toward the courtyard without a word. The pitcher is cool and rough against your fingers, heavier than you expected. Outside, the morning light spills across the stone bench where a large basin sits. The water inside is already clouded from others who washed before you. Your aunt watches as you lift the pitcher and pour slowly over your hands. The water runs down your wrists and drips onto the stone below. She murmurs words you don't fully understand, blessings, maybe, or instructions. The ritual is precise. First the right hand, then the left, pouring just enough to cover each finger but not so much that water pools at your feet. The Pharisees have strict rules about this, your aunt explains. Even this simple act must be done correctly, or it doesn't count. You hesitate, modern instincts urging you to just wipe your hands and eat. But her sharp glance stops you. This isn't just about cleanliness. It's about purity, about honoring God before every meal, about recognizing that even the simplest act must be done with intention. The water feels good against sleep-stiff fingers, cool even in the morning's warmth. You recite the words she teaches you, stumbling over the unfamiliar Hebrew. The blessing isn't long, but the weight of it sinks in deeper than the water. This washing isn't optional. It's obligation, tradition, law, ingrained into daily life as deeply as breathing. A rough cloth hangs from a peg nearby, already damp from others' use. It's coarse linen, scratchy against your freshly rinsed skin. You wipe your hands carefully, wondering how many hands this cloth has dried today alone. Your aunt watches your movements critically, nodding only when she sees your hands are clean, not just in the modern sense, but ritually prepared for food. Without this ritual, the bread waiting inside isn't truly blessed. Without this washing, the meal wouldn't be right. Inside, a small loaf sits near the fire. It's flat and dense, barley bread, not the soft wheat you're used to. A dish of olives glistens beside it, along with a bowl of goat's milk cheese. The portions are small. This isn't indulgence, just enough to start the day's work. Your stomach growls again, louder this time, but you wait. The ritual isn't finished yet. Your aunt murmurs another blessing as she tears the bread, then hands you a piece so small you could eat it in one bite. But you chew slowly. Every crumb carries the weight of the ritual poured into it. The careful washing, the murmured prayers, the deliberate pace set against morning hunger. The bread tastes earthy, nutty, nothing like store-bought loaves. The olives are saltier than you expect, their oil slick on your fingers. No plates, no forks, just bread pinched between fingers, olives popped directly into your mouth. You eat in silence, aware of the others doing the same around you. No one speaks while eating. Another rule? Or just custom? No one explains. Some traditions aren't taught. They're absorbed through watching and doing until they feel natural. The cheese is tangy, richer than modern grocery store versions. You eat it with another piece of bread, savoring the flavors stronger than anything plastic-wrapped and preservative-filled. The meal is simple, but it's enough to quiet your stomach and prepare you for the work ahead. You reach for the last olive, but your aunt shakes her head. That piece is saved for later, for lunch when the sun is high and work is hard. One meal blends into the next here. No refrigerators, no leftovers, just careful rationing until evening. The washing ritual still lingers on your skin, hands clean but drying quickly in the morning air. The bread sits differently in your stomach now, heavier with meaning than calories. This isn't just breakfast. It's obligation, remembrance, survival, all wrapped into simple bread and sanctified by water poured over tired hands. Your aunt rises first, leaving you to finish the last sip of milk. Outside, the city noises grow louder. More voices, more carts rolling past, more animals complaining. The day is beginning in earnest now, and soon you'll be pulled into its currents. But for now, in this quiet moment after eating, stillness lingers. The ritual is complete. Hands washed, bread blessed, hunger eased. Soon the jug will be filled again, the cloth will dry, and the next meal will start the same way. Water over skin, murmured words, coarse bread broken with careful hands. The pitcher sits by the basin, waiting for the next person. Already, you see a cousin approaching. His hands dusty from early chores, his hunger plain on his face. You step aside, leaving space for him to begin his own washing, his own prayers, his own small meal before the work of the day claims him too. The moment you step outside, the city slams into you. The first thing that hits isn't the sight, it's the smell. A thick wave of roasting meat, animal dung, and human sweat wraps around you before you've taken 2 steps. Somewhere nearby, bread bakes in a clay oven, its yeasty warmth mixing with the sharp tang of urine from the alley corner. There's no escaping it. This is the air here, always moving between sweetness and stench. The street is barely wide enough for 2 people to pass sideways. Your shoulder scrapes against rough stone as you try to make space for a woman balancing a water jar on her head. Her robe brushes your arm. No avoiding contact here. Every inch of these twisting alleys belongs to someone. Merchants spreading wares on blankets, children chasing chickens, men arguing over the price of olive oil. A donkey brays loudly right behind you, its hot breath puffing against your neck. You turn to see a farmer hauling baskets of figs, the animal's load swaying dangerously close to your head. There's no sidewalk to step onto, no safe space to stop and adjust. The flow of people presses forward like water through a gully, carrying you along whether you're ready or not. Underfoot, the ground isn't quite dirt, not quite stone. Centuries of feet have worn the paving uneven, leaving dips that collect whatever washes down from houses above. You step carefully, but your sandal still squishes into something soft and damp. No one else seems to notice. This is just how streets are here. A child darts past, his bare feet slapping against stone as he disappears into the crowd. Above you, shutters bang open as someone tosses night waste into the street. It splatters near a group of women drawing water from the public cistern. They don't even flinch. This happens every morning. Their skirts are already tucked up to avoid the worst of the muck. The noise never stops. Not just voices, though there are plenty, but the constant background hum of a city awake. Hammers clang from the metalworker's stall. A potter's wheel creaks as it spins. Sheep bleat from somewhere nearby, probably waiting for temple sacrifice. It's not even mid-morning, and your head already pounds from the unrelenting clamor. You round a corner and the smells shift. Spices now, cumin and coriander piled high in wooden bowls. A merchant shouts prices at passers-by, his hands stained yellow from handling turmeric. Next to him, a fish seller's table draws buzzing flies. The salty stink of his wares mixes with the honey cakes cooling across the way. Your stomach churns at the contrast. Someone jostles you from behind, a laborer carrying a stack of firewood taller than he is. He grunts when you don't move fast enough. There's no "excuse me" here, no polite waiting. Space is precious, and hesitation means losing your spot in the flow. You press against the stall's rough wooden frame as 2 Roman soldiers stride past, their hobnailed sandals clicking sharply against the stones. They don't look at you, don't acknowledge anyone. The crowd parts for them without a word. High above, lines of laundry flap between buildings, casting shifting shadows on the street below. A chicken pecks near your feet, its claws scratching at the ground until a boy shoos it away. You can't walk 3 steps without some new assault on your senses. The reek of tanned hides from the tannery, the sour bite of fermenting grapes at the wine press, the earthy smell of clay from the potter's workshop. Your sandals stick slightly when you lift your feet. Not just dust, but layers of whatever has been spilled, dropped, or left to rot here over years. There's no garbage collection, no street sweepers. What isn't eaten by animals or worn away by rain becomes part of the ground beneath you. A woman pushes past with a basket of wool balanced on her hip. Behind her, 2 men argue loudly about a loan near the money changer's table. Their voices echo off the close walls, adding to the din. You try to step around them, but the press of bodies gives no quarter. Breathe through your mouth, you tell yourself. The air tastes like smoke and dust and something vaguely sour. You catch a glimpse of sky between rooftops, a slice of perfect blue that seems impossibly distant from the chaos below. A water carrier staggers by, his shoulders bent under the weight of a dripping goatskin. Some spills as he passes, darkening the stones briefly before the thirsty ground drinks it up. The splash hits your bare ankle, warm from hours in the sun. This is Jerusalem's rhythm, unceasing movement, unrelenting closeness. There's no space to be alone, no moment when the city pauses. Even now, as you stand trying to take it all in, the current of people flows around you like a river around a stubborn stone. Somewhere ahead, the Temple Mount rises above the rooftops. Its white stone gleams in the morning sun, impossibly clean compared to the streets twisting below. The smell of incense drifts down faintly, a fleeting sweetness in the crowded air. You step forward, no choice but to keep moving, and the crowd swallows you whole. Another alley, another turn, another dozen lives pressing close. The city doesn't care that you're overwhelmed. Jerusalem has been this way for centuries, long before you arrived, and it will continue long after you're gone. Above the noise, a shofar sounds from the temple, clear and bright, cutting through the human clamor. Some pause to listen. Most keep working, keep talking, keep moving. Life here doesn't stop for holiness, but moves around it, through it, carrying its people forward one labored step at a time. Your sandals slap against the stones as you walk further into the heart of the city. The smells shift again, the crowd thickens, the noise rises. There's no quiet corner to collect yourself. Not here, not today. Jerusalem demands your full attention, all your senses, whether you're ready to give them or not. The murmurs around you stop first. Then the crowd shifts like reeds parting in a breeze, pressing back against walls and stalls without being told. You barely have time to wonder why before you hear it. The rhythmic clank of metal against metal, the heavy tread of hobnailed sandals striking stone in perfect unison. Two soldiers appear at the end of the street. Their red cloaks stand out against the dusty city like blood on linen. Sunlight glints off their helmets, the polished metal flashing as they move. Each man carries a short sword at his hip, the leather scabbard slapping against his thigh with every step. Their rectangular shields bear strange symbols, eagles and wreaths marking them as part of the 10th Legion stationed in Jerusalem. No one speaks. The vegetable seller freezes with his knife halfway through a bunch of onions. A woman pulls her child closer, turning the boy's face into her skirts. The market's usual noise dies down to just the clucking of nervous chickens and the distant bleat of a goat. The soldiers walk as if they own the street, because they do. You learn this immediately in the way they don't slow for anyone. How their eyes sweep over the crowd without seeing individuals. They're speaking Latin to each other, the harsh words meaningless to most here. One laughs at something, the sound sharp and foreign against the quiet Hebrew murmurs. Their armor creaks as they move. Leather straps strain under the weight of metal plates protecting their chests and shoulders. Each man wears a dagger on his right hip opposite the sword, two weapons to the average citizen's none. Their belts jingle with coins and tools, the sound almost cheerful if it didn't mean so much power in one place. You watch a Roman's hand rest casually on his sword hilt. His fingers tap against it absently, like someone might drum on a table. The message is clear. This is as natural to him as breathing. The gesture makes your shoulders tense without you deciding to. A child drops a clay cup. It shatters on the stones. The sound cracks through the street like thunder. One soldier's head snaps toward the noise, hand now gripping his sword properly. For 3 long breaths, no one moves. Then the soldier snorts and turns away, muttering something that makes his companion smirk. No one picks up the broken pieces. No one moves at all until the soldiers have passed. Even then, people wait extra moments before the market's noise cautiously returns. No one comments on what just happened. No one needs to. These 2 men are just the visible edge of Rome's grip on Jerusalem. You hear stories quietly later about the hundreds more stationed at the Antonia fortress overlooking the temple, about the auxiliaries from Caesarea who don't speak either Latin or Aramaic, about the tax collectors who work under Roman protection, taking more than required because who will stop them? A merchant near you finally exhales once the soldiers are gone around a corner. His hands shake as he rearranges his figures. People start moving again, but the easy chatter from before doesn't return. Everyone remembers now, their laws don't matter unless Rome allows them. Their traditions continue only because Rome permits it. You notice how people check the street corners before speaking freely again. How laughter sounds forced now. How a wine seller pours an extra cup silently and leaves it on the counter when a different group of soldiers passes later. No words are exchanged, but the meaning is clear. Later, you hear about a man from Bethany who argued with a tax collector last week. He's still missing. His wife comes to market with bruises on her face and doesn't meet anyone's eyes. No one asks what happened. No one can do anything if they knew. The temple trumpets sound their afternoon call, but even this sacred routine happens under Roman approval. The priests offer sacrifices for the emperor's health while knowing Rome could crush the temple anytime it chose. The only reason the holy routines continue is that Rome finds them useful for keeping peace. It settles on you slowly, the understanding of what occupation truly means. Not just foreign soldiers in the streets, but the constant awareness shaping every decision. Don't gather in large groups. Don't protest the taxes. Don't give them any reason to notice you. Keep your head down, your voice quiet, and maybe they'll pass you by today. As evening falls, you see more patrols moving through the streets. Their torches make pools of light in the gathering dark. People hurry to finish their business before curfew. Doors that stood open all day now close early. Someone's baby cries and a mother shushes it urgently. From a rooftop, you watch the torches winding through Jerusalem's streets like glowing snakes. The red cloaks look black in the dim light. The soldiers' footsteps echo between the houses, marking time for everyone whether they want it or not. You understand now why people tense when they hear those boots on stone. Why conversations stop when a soldier enters a room. These men are just individuals, probably homesick, possibly kind to their mothers, but right now they're Rome itself. And Rome doesn't care about your traditions, your laws, or your life unless it serves their purpose. Back in the house, someone whispers a psalm about deliverance. Others join in quietly, the words barely louder than breathing. You sing too, understanding the longing in a way you couldn't have yesterday. Outside, torchlight flickers through the shuttered windows as another patrol passes. The voices inside don't falter, but they don't get any louder either. There are always ears listening in Jerusalem. Your cousin shoves the clay jug toward you without warning. Your hands barely close around the rough handle before you feel its weight. The empty vessel alone is heavy, thick-bellied pottery designed to hold gallons without breaking. When filled, it will weigh as much as a small child. The walk to the spring of Gihon stretches long before you. Already your shoulder aches where the jug's handle presses into flesh. Your modern muscles aren't used to this. The path slopes downward, each step jarring your spine as you navigate uneven stones worn smooth by centuries of sandaled feet. Around you, women and girls, always women, make the same trek. Some balance jars on their heads with practiced ease. Others, like you, carry them against their hips, arms trembling with the strain. When you reach the spring, the line stretches deep into the grotto. People shift restless in the heat, their own containers clinking together as they wait. No one speaks much. This isn't social time, it's work. The woman ahead of you rubs at her lower back, her fingers tracing circles over a knot of muscle formed from years of hauling. Her hands are rough, her fingers permanently curled from gripping handles. The spring water runs cool and clear from its stone channel. You kneel awkwardly to fill your jug, the sudden weight nearly pulling you forward into the water. Liquid sloshes over your wrist as you lift it, far heavier now, the full jug threatening to slip from your grasp. You adjust your grip, but the coarse clay grinds against your palm. On the walk home, you'll switch hands 17 times. Halfway back up the hill, your arms shake like plucked harp strings. Sweat slides down your temple, trickling into your eye without any free hand to wipe it away. The jug's rim digs into your forearm as you hitch it higher. Your fingers throb where blisters are forming, soft modern skin giving way to the pottery's unrelenting edge. Your back burns from holding your shoulders unnaturally stiff to avoid spills. A girl no older than 12 passes you, her own water jar balanced perfectly on her head. She moves easily, her body shaped by years of this labor. Her bare feet find secure footing where yours hesitate. She doesn't spill a drop. By the time you reach home, your breath comes in ragged gasps. The water sloshes dangerously as you set it down, precious liquid spilling onto thirsty dirt. Your aunt clicks her tongue at the waist. This isn't just water, it's hours of work, carried step by painful step. Every splash might mean another trip down the hill. Your hands sting when you open them. Pink blisters bloom across your palms where the jug's handle rubbed. Your shoulders throb deep under the muscle. You flex your fingers slowly, the skin pulling tight over new wounds. But there's no time to rest. Already your aunt points to empty jars lined against the wall. Washing water, drinking water, water for cooking tonight's lentils. None can be drawn from a tap. All must be carried. As you turn back toward the door, your cousin hands you a square of folded linen. For your head next time, she says. It won't make the water lighter, but it might spare your hands. You tuck it into your belt, knowing tomorrow's blisters will be worse before they eventually harden into calluses. If you stay here long enough, your body will reshape itself to this work. Spine curving to balance weight, shoulders broadening to bear it, hands toughening until they no longer feel the rub of clay. Down the street, smoke rises from a bakery's oven. The smell of fresh bread should be comforting, but all you can think about is the water needed to make it. Every bite of food, every sip of drink, every washed dish or piece of clothing, all depend on someone's aching back and blistered hands. There are no shortcuts here, no pipes to bring life flowing into homes. Just muscle and sweat and the slow, endless walk between need and fulfillment. As you start downhill again, the empty jug already heavy in anticipation, you pass a group of women returning from the well. Their laughter sounds like wind through olive branches, light and free despite their burden. They shift jugs from hip to hip without breaking stride, their feet finding the path by memory. Some balance spinning will atop their jars, turning travel time into productive time. Their sandals slap against stone in rhythm, a walking song of necessity and perseverance. Your next trip blends into the one after, until the sun hangs low and your arms feel like they no longer belong to you. The blisters on your right hand have torn open, leaving raw skin that burns at every touch. Your left shoulder has gone numb where the jug rests against it. Still, the jars at home aren't all filled. Still, the family needs water for evening purification rites. When you finally finish, collapsing onto a bench with your trembling hands in your lap, no one remarks on your exhaustion. This isn't extraordinary, just Tuesday. Tomorrow will be the same, and the day after, and the day after that. No weekends, no breaks, just the unending cycle of need and labor. In the fading light, you watch a young girl chase her brother across the courtyard. They laugh as they dart between olive trees, careless with the energy of youth. Soon enough, she'll join the procession of women on the water path. Soon enough, her shoulders will bend to the weight of necessity. You flex your hands, wincing at the sting. The blisters will heal. The muscles will strengthen. The work won't change. You take a sip of the water you carried. Its taste sweeter for knowing its cost. Outside, the first stars appear. The same stars that will watch generations more take this same weary path tomorrow. The sun beats down as you shift uncomfortably in your woolen tunic. Without thinking, you tug at the neckline where it chafes your sunburnt skin. A sharp gasp cuts through the courtyard chatter. Your neighbor Miriam claps both hands over her mouth, her eyes wide with horror. You freeze, fingers still pinching fabric. What did you do wrong? Old Rachel hurries over, her sandals slapping the dirt. She grabs your wrist and pulls your hand away as if you're holding something poisonous. The law, child, she hisses. Your pulse jumps as the women around you start whispering behind their hands. One girl no older than 12 points at your collarbone, now exposed for half a breath before Rachel yanks your garment straight. Even accidental immodesty requires purification, Rachel mutters. She's already reaching for the small flask of oil dangling from her belt. The other women form a loose circle around you, not quite touching, but close enough that you feel the heat of their bodies. A man passing by averts his eyes and quickens his step. Rachel dips her thumb in the oil. You watch it gleam under the harsh sunlight as she murmurs words you don't understand. Her calloused finger smears the oil across your forehead in a short line. It smells faintly of olives and something earthy, maybe. The women around you nod solemnly. Someone says amen. Just like that, the tension breaks. Conversations restart. Miriam stops clutching her robe in distress. But your heart still pounds. This wasn't some grand sin, just adjusting sweaty clothing. Yet the reaction made it clear. Every action here carries spiritual weight. The Pharisees teach that even unintentional violations separate you from holiness. One thoughtless moment, and suddenly you need ritual correction. Rachel pats your arm now that the oil's applied. Better, she says. Then, seeing your confusion, she explains, the law says neither shall cloth of mingled yarn come upon you. Your tunic rode up too high, almost showed the stitching at the neck. Mixed fibers in the thread, you see. She points to the barely visible seam where two types of thread join. You never would have noticed. The women around you nod. They all know this. As you walk home later, you study people's clothing with new attention. Every fold, every seam follows deliberate rules. No one wears fabrics mixed with wool and linen. Numbers and Deuteronomy forbid it. Women's hems hang precisely at mid-calf to avoid revealing ankles. Even the wealthy traders in fine silks follow the modesty laws, their expensive fabrics tailored to prophetic specifications. At the baker's stall, you watch a man pause before accepting change. The coin might have touched pork earlier, unclean. He waits until the baker pours water over his hands before taking it. Across the square, a wine merchant covers his barrels before prayer time so dust won't render them unfit for holy days. Everywhere you look, people perform tiny rituals to maintain purity. That evening, your cousin explains more as you help grind barley. She lists rules casually. Don't spit on the Sabbath lest saliva disturb dust, which is work. Don't walk too far from home on holy days. Never touch a woman during her monthly bleeding. The regulations layer over daily life like second skin. Why so strict? You ask, wincing as the grinding stone rubs your blisters. Your cousin frowns, surprised by the question. How else would God know we love him? She gestures toward the Temple Mount gleaming in late sunlight. Every little obedience is worship. The way she says it makes clear, these aren't restrictions, but offerings. Later, you see the same careful devotion in how your aunt checks every loaf for leaven before Passover. In how the children wash their hands exactly 3 times before meals. Even in how your uncle turns his garments inside out before mending them, lest he sew mixed threads by accident. As night falls, you notice something unexpected. Far from resenting these constant rules, people seem comforted by them. The baker hums while separating tithe dough from his batch. The water carriers laugh as they count steps to avoid carrying on Sabbath. The laws provide rhythm, a way to turn mundane acts into holy ones. Yet the weight of it still presses on you. One misstep could offend God or neighbors. Spill oil near a Pharisee's cloak, and you owe compensation. Touch the wrong thing after childbirth, and you're banned from temple rites for weeks. Every choice risks transgression. At bedtime, you find yourself checking your sleeping mat for insects. Leviticus forbids letting creeping things touch your bed. Your cousin nods approvingly when she sees you looking. You realize then, there's no real privacy here, not even in private actions. God sees everything, and so do his people. The thought keeps you awake longer than the hard floor. Outside, an owl calls. Somewhere a baby fusses. Jerusalem sleeps under the same laws that govern its waking hours, every breath, every dream subject to divine decree. You pull your scratchy blanket higher, careful not to disturb the careful folds that keep you decent even in sleep. Tomorrow will bring new chances to obey, or stumble. For now, the stars shine down on a city where not even the darkness excuses you from holiness. You step outside the cramped house, hoping to find a moment alone. But the courtyard buzzes with activity. Aunts pounding grain, children chasing chickens, uncles discussing the day's work. You duck into what looks like an empty corner, only to find two cousins whispering secrets. They stare at you until you leave. Privacy doesn't exist here. Not in the sleeping room where 8 relatives share one space. Not at meals where elbows bump and food is passed hand to hand. Not even during bodily functions. The communal chamber pot sits in a corner with only a thin curtain for modesty. Everyone hears everything. Everyone knows everything. Your aunt notices when you sigh. Your cousin comments when you pick at dinner. Strangers in the market glance at your posture and guess your mood. In Jerusalem, solitude is as rare as a cool breeze in summer. People live piled together, 3 generations under one roof, neighbors separated by thin walls, streets always crowded. You try to sneak away at dusk, slipping behind the house where the olive trees grow. But before you've taken 3 breaths, your little cousin appears. He doesn't ask why you're alone. The concept makes no sense to him. He chatters about his game as he leans against you, his dirty fingers leaving prints on your robe. When you don't respond fast enough, he tugs your sleeve. Rest isn't an option. Back inside, evening rituals leave no space for quiet. The women need tomorrow's bread while men discuss temple taxes. Children dart between legs until they collapse onto mats. Someone always needs something. Water fetched, a crying baby rocked, another log added to the fire. Your modern longing for me time earns confused looks here. Why would anyone want to be alone? Even washing becomes a group activity. At the public cistern, women scrub laundry together, their knees pressed against the stone rim. They gossip while slapping wet cloth against rocks, their voices carrying easily over the splash. No one hesitates to comment on how you hold the soap. Wrong, apparently. An old woman adjusts your grip without asking, her hands rough as tree bark. Bathing happens in shifts, women first, then men, but never alone. You learn quickly to keep your eyes down, to focus on scrubbing without looking at other bodies. The water turns murky fast as dust and oil swirl off skin. No one seems bothered. They talk and laugh as if standing naked in a crowded room is perfectly normal. For them, it is. At night, sleeping mats lie so close that turning over means elbowing someone. The air thickens with snores and sleep murmurs. Someone's foot brushes your leg. Someone else coughs. A baby fusses, followed by the shush of a mother rocking it. Through the thin walls, you hear neighbors arguing about a borrowed pot. When dawn comes, it brings no peace. The family rises together, no staggered schedules, no quiet coffees sipped alone. Your uncle starts morning prayers before everyone's eyes are fully open. Children yawn and rub their faces as they join the chant. There's no wait until I wake up. The household moves as one. You learn to think with noise, to meditate while cousins argue over chores, to pray while toddlers wail. Silence is so foreign that when it comes, briefly, at midday when the heat drives people indoors, it feels unnerving. Your ears ring with the lack of voices. Hygiene routines emphasize this closeness. No private toothbrushing, just a twig passed around for chewing. No individual towels. Everyone uses the same scrap of linen to dry their hands and faces. Even illnesses spread fast here, jumping from person to person in the tight living spaces. Visitors wander in unannounced. Neighbors borrow utensils without asking. Meals always include extra mouths, traveling relatives, the widow next door, a passing merchant. No one knocks. No one says, "Am I interrupting?" Personal space isn't a concept Jerusalem understands. You catch yourself longing for a closed door, just once. But doors here stay open unless barred against danger. Curtains separate rooms only when absolutely necessary. People share beds, share bowls, share lives without partitions. The wealthy might have separate sleeping quarters, but even they live surrounded by servants and relatives. Worst are the intimate moments. A woman births her baby with half the neighborhood listening outside. Couples learn creative ways to stay quiet during sex, knowing children sleep mere feet away. Grief happens in public. Mourners wail loudly while friends hold them up. Even prayer is communal, voices blending at synagogue and temple. By week's end, you stop expecting solitude. The constant press of bodies becomes normal. You eat when others eat, sleep when others sleep, work in rhythm with the household. Individual thoughts give way to shared concerns. Did the well run dry? Will the Romans increase taxes? Did Uncle Ezra get his cough checked? Late one evening, as the family gathers for final prayers, you realize something surprising. The closeness that first chafed now comforts. When your cousin bumps your shoulder while reciting psalms, you bump back gently. When the baby grabs your finger during blessings, you don't pull away. The weight of all these bodies around you, breathing, living, surviving together, feels less like invasion and more like armor. Jerusalem doesn't coddle loners. Here, survival depends on togetherness. A fallen person gets lifted before they ask. Hungry mouths find food without begging. Loneliness can't thrive in these crowded streets and packed homes. You still miss quiet sometimes. But as the fire dies down and relatives settle onto mats around you, their familiar snores and rustles make a strange lullaby. Outside, another family laughs in their courtyard. Down the alley, a merchant sings as he packs his store. The night pulses with shared life, no one left to face darkness alone. When sleep finally comes, it finds you curled like the others, your back touching someone's, your feet brushing another's. Separate but joined, alone and yet not at all. Your fingers barely touch the figs when the merchant slaps your wrist. Not hard, but enough to sting. "You don't speak to me directly, girl," he mutters, glancing toward where your uncle stands several stalls away. Heat rushes to your face as you realize your mistake. In Jerusalem, every conversation follows rules. Age before youth, men before women, rich before poor. You broke them all by approaching this merchant alone, without a male relative, and daring to open negotiations yourself. The other shoppers pretend not to notice, but their turned shoulders and quiet coughs signal their disapproval. The fig seller won't look at you now. Instead, he calls over your head to your uncle. "Fine Damascus figs. Bring your man to discuss the price." His voice carries the forced cheer of someone pretending nothing awkward happened. The figs wobble in their basket, plump, sticky, probably delicious. But their price will be set between two men now, as custom demands. Your uncle sighs when he arrives. Not angry, just tired. He pats your shoulder, a quiet acknowledgement that you didn't know better. "Begin at 2 copper coins," he whispers before stepping forward. The haggling begins proper, with long pauses and dramatic gestures. No one mentions your earlier blunder. Pretending it didn't happen is the kindest option. You watch the silent language of these interactions all morning. Young men step aside when elders approach doorways. Poor families wait longer at the well. Women lower their eyes when speaking to men not their relatives. A wealthy merchant's daughter walks by with a servant carrying her purchases. The crowd parts for her fine linens in ways it never would for your wool dress. At the olive oil stall, a woman about your age hesitates before selecting a jar. She glances repeatedly at her husband, who finally nods permission. The merchant charges her triple what he'd ask a man. She pays without complaint. Her careful posture says she expected nothing else. When she catches you watching, her tight smile says everything. This is how the world works here. Even children follow the rules. You see two boys scrapping over a toy until a priest walks by. Immediately they freeze, dust themselves off, and bow their heads properly. The younger one forgets to keep his arms at his sides and earns a sharp pinch from his brother. Their play won't resume until the holy man is well down the street. The social ladder climbs steeply here. At the top stand the priests and wealthy Sadducees, men who dine with Roman officials and own prime market stalls. Beneath them, Pharisees and scholars command respect through knowledge rather than coins. Then come merchants, craftsmen, farmers. At the bottom, de laboris, beggars, and those with questionable parentage. Your family lands squarely in the middle, respectable but forgettable. Gender divides run deeper than wealth. Women handle household trades, but men make major purchases. A widow can sell her late husband's wares, but only if she has no sons. Girls your age already weave their hair tightly back. Loose curls suggest availability. You learn this when an older woman tucks a stray lock behind your ear with a tutting noise. Unless you want trouble, she murmurs. By afternoon, you've internalized the dance. You let your uncle enter rooms first. You wait your turn at the well behind matrons. You lower your eyes when passing groups of men. No one thanks you for these gestures. They're as expected as breathing. When you slip and speak directly to the spice seller, his shocked pause tells you everything. Your cousin jumps in quickly to smooth things over. The strictest rules govern interactions with Romans. A centurion's servant struts through the market like nobility, his foreign tunic marking him as untouchable. Locals shrink back when he approaches stalls, not just from disgust, but necessity. Complaining about unfair prices could earn a beating. Watching him bully the bread seller into giving away a week's profits makes your hands curl into fists. Your aunt notices and elbows you sharply. "Don't," she whispers. Religion layers over everything. A Pharisee's blue-tasseled robe makes crowds deferential, even if he's poorer than they are. Your neighbor who tithes perfectly gets better market prices than the fisherman suspected of skipping sacrifices. When you accidentally step between a praying man and the temple, 3 people hiss corrections. Direction matters here as much as location. Dinner time reveals more nuances. Your uncle eats first, then the other men, then boys over 13. Women and girls serve the food, then eat what's left in the kitchen. No one remarks on this. It's simply how meals work. Someone mentions a family who lets daughters eat with sons, and the scandalized gasps last minutes. You try explaining modern equality to your cousin as you wash dishes. She stares blankly. "But who would lead prayers if not the men?" she asks. The concept of women doing so visibly confuses her. Later, you overhear her telling others about your strange ideas. Their laughter carries clearly through the thin walls. Stars emerge as you finally rest. The day's rules cling like market dust. Who to defer to, who to ignore, who to instinctively distrust. Tomorrow will demand the same careful choreography. No spontaneous greetings. No speaking out of turn. No forgetting your place. Jerusalem doesn't care about your modern ideals. Here, survival depends on reading invisible lines, knowing when to bow, when to stay silent, when to vanish entirely. The fig seller's slap taught you more than any lecture could. In this world, you don't define your role. Centuries of tradition already did. A moth flutters near the oil lamp. Like you, it keeps bumping against boundaries it doesn't understand. Unlike you, it won't learn to stop. You watch it circle the flame once more before turning away. Tomorrow comes early, and with it, another day of practiced submission to rules older than memory. You straighten your tunic sleeves precisely, the right length, the proper fold, the expected appearance. Jerusalem's social ladder won't bend. You can only learn to climb it. The noise begins before dawn and never relents. That first rooster crow barely registers by midday, drowned beneath the hammering of coppersmiths, the braying of overloaded donkeys, and the shouts of merchants hawking everything from fresh lamb to stolen Roman sandals. Every Jerusalem street thrums with relentless sound, not the white noise of modern cities, but distinct, clashing layers that leave your ears aching by afternoon. At the baker's stall, thick wooden pestles pound grain in rhythmic thuds that vibrate through your feet. Next door, a blacksmith's hammer rings against bronze in sharp, metallic cracks. The scent of hot metal mixes with baking bread as sounds collide. The sizzle of meat skewers over coals blending with children shrieking as they chase a runaway chicken. Someone's crying. Someone's laughing. Neither can be heard clearly over the donkey 2 feet behind you screaming its displeasure at an overloaded cart. Conversations don't happen. They're shouted. The fishmonger bellows prices while women argue over a disputed well space, voices climbing higher and sharper with each exchange. A scribe nearby reads legal documents aloud for illiterate shoppers, his steady drone fighting against the bleating of goats tied outside a butcher's stall. Babies wail constantly, overstimulated by the chaos. Older children dart through the mess, their games creating more clatter as they kick stones or knock over stacked baskets. There's no background music here, no soothing hum of appliances or cars. Just the visceral immediacy of survival sounds, with splitting, water sloshing, wheat grinding. No earplugs, no noise-canceling walls, no silent reading rooms. Even holy spaces echo with bartering and animal noise. The temple itself buzzes with merchants haggling over sacrificial doves and the clink of coins being changed. You learn quickly how sounds telegraph status. Roman soldiers announce themselves with the ominous clank of armor and weaponry long before they are visible. Wealthy women wear tinkling ankle bracelets that clear a path through markets. Beggars develop distinct coughs or rattling cups to stand out from the din. Everything becomes a signal, the specific cry of a bread seller versus a fruit vendor, the warning shouts when someone dumps chamber pots from upper windows. After hours, your head pounds from the assault. Yet quiet never comes. Even brief respites, like ducking into a courtyard, only swap market chaos for domestic noise. Chickens scratch at packed earth. A grandmother berates her granddaughter for spilling oil. 3 houses over, newlyweds argue about his mother while their neighbor beats a rug against a wall. There's no such thing as too loud here. Privacy is physical, not auditory. Nightfall barely helps. While modern cities whisper after dark, Jerusalem simply changes its soundtrack. Dogs wage territorial wars in the alleys. Drunk soldiers sing foreign songs outside taverns. Housewives grind tomorrow's grain by lamplight. The scrape of stone on stone carries through thin walls. And always babies crying. No soundproof nurseries, no pacifiers. Just exhausted mothers rocking infants as the whole neighborhood listens. You start judging distances by sound. The public latrines announce themselves long before the stench hits. The tannery district's constant pounding warns sensitive noses to D2. The clanging from the Antonia fortress signals Roman patrol changes. Important information for those who prefer avoiding soldiers. Even the temple has its own rhythms. Trumpet blasts mark prayer times, while the distant roar of crowded courts ebbs and flows like tides. Strangest is how locals navigate the noise without seeming to hear it. Your cousin chats easily while kneading dough beside shrieking millstones. The blacksmith's children nap undisturbed next to his clanging workspace. Only newcomers cover their ears when the shofar sounds. Everyone else just pauses mid-bite until the ringing stops, then continues eating as if nothing happened. Sound becomes its own kind of timekeeper. The water carrier's call means mid-morning. The sheep flock returning from pasture signals evening. When the bathhouse empties, you know curfew approaches. Ears replace clocks here. Ancient people told time by how the city's voice changed rather than by dials or digits. By week's end, your brain starts filtering sounds unconsciously. You wake at the first rooster without grogginess. You pause automatically when street preachers raise their voices. You learn which market cries warrant attention and which to ignore. The noise hasn't decreased. You've just become slightly more Jerusalemite, your modern sensibilities sanded down by necessity. Yet some sounds still jar. The scream of an animal being slaughtered behind the butcher's curtain. The wet thud of Roman canes hitting a tax dodger's back. Your own breath the first time you find genuine quiet. Up on a rooftop at midnight, watching stars, and realize it's the first silence you've known since arriving. The absence of noise feels shocking, sacred, alien. Descending back into the house, the familiar soundtrack swallows you again. Snoring relatives, rustling straw, a cough from the next room. No earplugs exist to block it, no soothing playlists to override it. Just the ancient world's relentless acoustics, reminding you every moment that solitude is a modern luxury Jerusalem doesn't recognize. Tomorrow will bring the same auditory assault. The same jostling layers of human and animal voices. The same instinct to cover your ears when the blacksmith starts pounding just as the baker fires up his grindstone. But tonight, curled on your thin mat, you memorize the crackling of the dying hearth. One sound, at least, that soothes rather than attacks. The embers pop softly, fading against the city's endless noise, until sleep finally claims you. Your sandals stick slightly against the stones as you turn down another crowded street. The market stench clings to your clothes. Fish guts, unwashed bodies, animal dung baking in the sun. Then, just as you think you can't take another breath of this foul air, the wind shifts. A startling sweetness cuts through the reek like honey stirred into vinegar. You stop walking without meaning to. Others around you pause too, lifting their faces slightly. Temple incense, cinnamon and cassia, myrrh and frankincense, carried down from the highest point of the city. The scent coats your tongue, richer than anything you've smelled before. Not perfume, not flowers, but something heavier. Holy. For a moment, no one moves. Even the noisy market seems to quiet. An old washerwoman closes her eyes as she inhales. A merchant stops haggling mid-sentence. The incense scent lingers just long enough to remind you. Beauty exists here too, mixed right into the grime. The moment passes. The washerwoman resumes pounding laundry against the stones. The merchant's voice rises again. But something has shifted. The city feels less oppressive now that you know these flashes exist. Moments when heaven brushes against everyday filth. You notice other glimpses as the day continues. Sunlight catches the gold threads in a rich woman's shawl as she passes. Clean rainwater collects in a stone trough, reflecting the sky perfectly before children disturb it with their play. An olive tree grows improbably from a crack in the city wall, its silver leaves whispering in the wind. Tiny rebellions against the ugliness. The most startling beauty comes at unexpected times. Like when a Levite choir practices near the temple gates. Their voices rise suddenly above the street noise. Deep male harmonies singing words you don't understand but feel nonetheless. The melody slips between market stalls, softening faces as it passes. Even the Roman guards tilt their heads slightly, though they'd never admit to listening. Or when you glimpse the temple itself at certain angles. Not the crowded outer courts with their shouting money changers, but the inner sanctuary. The white stone glows pink at sunset, so clean compared to the soot-stained city below. The sight makes strangers beside you whisper blessings without thinking. Children create moments too. Amid the dirt and hunger, they still play. You watch a group laughing as they chase a hoop made of grapevines down an alley. One girl pauses to offer you a wilting wildflower she found growing between paving stones. The petals are already bruised, but her grin makes it precious. Food becomes another kind of beauty here. Not fancy meals, but the way your aunt's flatbread tastes when dipped in good olive oil, golden and grassy. The explosion of flavor when you bite into a ripe fig, juices running down your chin. Even plain water tastes extraordinary after hauling it yourself from the Gihon spring. People find ways to create loveliness despite the grind. A potter paints delicate blue lines around his plain jugs before firing them. Women embroider tiny flowers onto their simplest tunics. An old man spends hours carving intricate patterns into his wooden staff, not for selling, just for beauty's sake. You start recognizing holiness in ordinary things. The way hands move during bread blessing, pulling the loaf apart with care. The rhythm of a woman rocking her baby while she works the grinding stone. The peaceful expression on faces during evening prayers, briefly unguarded. Night brings different wonders. Stars appear thicker here without modern lights to dim them. The moon lights stone walls so brightly you could almost read by it. Fireflies dart between houses. Children call them little lanterns and try to catch them in cupped hands. Best are the unexpected kindnesses. A stranger offering you his seat at the well when he sees you limping from blisters. Your cousin sharing her one honey cake when she thinks no one's looking. The way neighbors immediately appear when someone's donkey stumbles. Hands reaching to lift burdens without being asked. Music surfaces constantly, not formal concerts, but sudden singing. A shepherd boy playing a reed flute outside the city gates. Women humming as they weave. Your uncle quietly chanting psalms while mending fishing nets. The sounds weave through daily life like golden threads in dark fabric. Colors startle too. A bolt of purple fabric unfolds at the dyer's store, the vivid hue shocking against dull woolens. Pomegranates split open to reveal jewel-like seeds. Even humble things glow here, hot cooking fires turning clay pots orange, oil lamps casting warm circles in dark rooms. You learn to watch for these moments. The temple incense will fade, but other beauties wait around each corner. A perfect yellow lemon forgotten on a vendor's cart. The warmth of fresh-baked bread pressed into your hands. The rare bird that lands on a rooftop, its feathers iridescent in daylight. Most startling is how beauty and ugliness mix here. The same hands that empty chamber pots later cup flickering Sabbath candles gently. The woman who shouts at her children sings haunting lullabies at bedtime. Even the smelliest alleys grow lilies of the valley after rains. By week's end, you understand something deeper. Jerusalem's beauty isn't separate from its grit. It emerges precisely because of it. Like wildflowers pushing through cracked stones, holiness here isn't pristine. It's worn at the edges, smudged with fingerprints, singing slightly off-key. But real. Undeniably real. The incense returns each afternoon when priests replenish the altar. You begin timing your walks to catch it. That first sweet breath never gets old. Neither does the way hardened faces soften when it comes. For all their suffering, these people still pause for beauty, still look upward. Tonight, as you lie on your thin mat, the sounds of sleeping family around you, one last beauty appears, your little cousin sleepily reaching for your hand in the dark. No words, just warm fingers trusting yours. Outside, stars burn undimmed by city lights. Somewhere, a nightingale sings. Tomorrow will bring more filth, more struggles, but also more moments like this. Enough to keep souls alive through dust and Roman boots and endless hauling of water. Enough to make even this hard place holy. The woman's hands tremble as she counts out the coins. You watch her place one, then two, then three small copper pieces into the money changer's palm. His fingers close around them with a practiced flick. The coins clink together, a sharp, metallic sound that seems too loud in the holy place. Her shoulders sag as she accepts the temple shekels in exchange. They're heavier, purer, stamped with holy symbols instead of Roman faces. This is the only currency God accepts here. Nearby, a man bargains over the price of a dove. The bird's wings flutter against its cage as the merchant pokes it, demonstrating its health. No blemishes, the seller insists. Worthy for sacrifice. The man grimaces but pays. You notice his tunic is patched at the elbows, his sandals worn thin. This purchase likely cost him a week's wages. The court of the Gentiles hums with commerce. Money changers call rates from behind wooden tables heaped with coins. Sacrificial animals bleat and low from makeshift pens. Priests move through the crowd inspecting offerings, rejecting a lamb here for a slight limp, approving a pair of turtle doves there. The air smells of sweat, dung, and the iron tang of blood from the altar. A priest walks by carrying a silver bowl brimming with crimson. Splatters dot his pristine linen robe. No one flinches. This is the temple's rhythm. Coins changing hands, animals being examined, blood poured out. The sacred and the practical entwined like braided altar cords. You learn quickly how the system works. Every Jewish male over 20 must pay the annual temple tax, 2 days' wages for a laborer. Coins bearing Caesar's image can't be used for holy offerings, so they must be exchanged. The money changers take a cut, of course. Then comes the sacrifice. Lambs for those who can afford them, pigeons for those who can't. The poor scrape together whatever they have. An elderly woman approaches a merchant, her steps slow. She unwraps a cloth to reveal 5 small copper coins, all that remains after paying the tax. The merchant shakes his head. Her money buys only the scrawniest bird in the cage. She nods meekly, her veiled head bowing as she accepts it. The dove trembles in her grip as she carries it toward the priests. Near the altar, a rich man's entourage arrives. Servants lead a spotless yearling lamb with garlands around its neck. The animal wears the price of a month's grain supply. The priests greet the man warmly, inspecting his offering with quick, approving nods. Meanwhile, the poor widow's dove is examined with far more scrutiny. Only after 3 separate checks does a junior priest finally accept it. Your stomach tightens watching this. Shouldn't the house of God welcome all equally? But here, as everywhere, money opens doors. The wealthy sacrifice under shade canopies while paupers sweat in the sun. Those who can't afford livestock sweep the temple courts instead, earning glimpses of holiness through service. A mother kneels nearby, teaching her son to tie a scarlet thread around a lamb's leg, a poor man's substitute for actual sacrifice. "We'll buy a proper offering next year," she promises. The boy nods solemnly, his small fingers fumbling with the string. Nearby, a priest's son about the same age carries a golden vessel without a second thought. Both children born into God's house, separated only by coins. You notice the sacrificial animals seem calmer than expected. No frantic struggling as they're led to slaughter. It's as if generations of domestication have bred resignation into their bones. They walk to the altar with heads low, accepting the knife with eerie stillness. Only their rapid breathing gives away their fear. The sounds layer together, the clatter of coins, bleats of sheep, murmured prayers. A priest chants scripture as he splashes blood against the altar's base. The metallic scent mixes with incense in strange harmony. People press forward in the queue, each waiting their turn to approach holiness. A commotion erupts near the money changers. A man throws down his table, coins scattering across the stones. "Den of thieves," he roars. For a heartbeat, the temple holds its breath. Then guards surge forward, and the moment passes. Business resumes as if nothing happened. The scattered coins are soon collected, the table righted. Life and sacrifice goes on. You watch a young couple hand over their last silver for 2 doves. The woman's belly is round beneath her robe, a purification offering after childbirth. Her husband's jaw clenches as he pays. This sacrifice means no meat at their table this month. But they pay anyway, because faith matters more than full bellies here. As sunset nears, the crowds thin. Merchants pack away unsold birds. Priests tally the day's offerings. The altar fires burn low, their smoke curling upward in the twilight. A lone woman sweeps the court, gathering dropped coins too small for anyone to miss. She pockets one, just one, before continuing her work. Her face shows no guilt, just weary survival. Tomorrow the cycle will repeat. More taxes paid, more doves inspected, more blood spilled. The system isn't fair, but it's how people here reach for God. Their obedience costs them dearly, yet they pay anyway. Not because they're foolish, but because they believe, truly believe, holiness is worth any price. You leave through the emptying courts, stepping over a discarded bird feather stuck to the stones with dried blood. Outside the temple walls, Jerusalem continues its noisy life. But you walk differently now, understanding what it costs these people to worship. Not just in coins or livestock, but in trust, that God sees their sacrifices, values their obedience, honors their poor widow's mites as much as the rich man's lamb. The stars emerge as you reach home. Inside, your family prepares their meager supper. No meat tonight, just bread and oil. But they eat it thankfully, pausing to bless the food with hands still faintly scented from temple incense. Their faith isn't in the system, but in the God behind it. And that makes all the difference. Your uncle pulls you aside as evening falls, his voice dropping to a whisper. Levi's family lost their olive press yesterday, he says, eyes darting toward the street. Tax collectors came with Roman soldiers. The words hang heavy in the dim light. You notice how his fingers grip your arm too tight. Not enough to hurt, but enough to feel his fear. Outside, the market stalls close early. Merchants pack up their wares with unusual speed. No one says why, but you see the glances toward the city gates. Everyone knows the signs. When Roman officials ride into Jerusalem, someone's property will be seized before nightfall. Tax time isn't predictable here. No forms or due dates. Just soldiers appearing at your door demanding payment in full. The rates change without warning. 1 year it's a quarter of your grain harvest. The next it's half your fishing catch plus a road maintenance fee. Protest, and they take your donkey instead. Hesitate, and they'll seize your son as collateral. You watch neighbors hide their best possessions as twilight deepens. A woman buries her copper pots in the garden. A young father leads his family's goat up to the rooftop, out of sight. These aren't thieves hiding loot, just ordinary people trying to keep what little they have. Your aunt counts coins quietly by lamplight. The family's emergency fund, 2 years of secret savings sewn into a belt. She touches each piece as if memorizing them. 1 silver drachma, 5 bronze assaria, 12 tiny lepta coins. The widow's mites Jesus will someday notice. Together, they might cover one unexpected tax Levi. Maybe. The system breeds its own cruelty. Wealthy Jews bid for tax collection contracts, then squeeze extra from their neighbors to profit. These local collectors, called publicani, pay Rome first, then keep whatever else they can extract. No receipts, no appeals, just the ever-present threat of Roman fists backing their demands. You see the toll it takes. Old Rebecca hasn't lit her oven in weeks, sold her grinding stones to pay a property assessment. The sandal maker's daughter went to work for a Greek merchant after her father's debt mounted. Worst are the stories no one tells outright. Men who disappear into debt slavery, women forced into arrangements with creditors. Families survive by banding together. Tonight, your uncle gives a sack of barley to Levi's widow. Last month, Levi helped your cousin pay a temple tax. The cycle continues, not out of charity, but necessity. Everyone knows they could be next. Roman soldiers pass by your street at dusk. No one breathes until their footsteps fade. Your little cousin whimpers until his mother shushes him. The soldiers might just be changing guard posts, or they might be heading to confiscate someone's livelihood. There's no way to know until it happens. You learn the math of desperation. A fishing boat costs 30 denarii to replace, about a month's wages. Lose it to taxes, and you lose next month's income too. The downward spiral accelerates. One bad harvest, one unexpected assessment, and a family unravels within weeks. The tax collector's cruelty isn't random. They target specific people, those without powerful relatives, those who've recently suffered loss, those who might pay extra out of fear. A widow with no sons to protect her. A farmer whose eldest son just married out. The system preys on vulnerability. Yet even in this, small acts of resistance persist. You notice how neighbors suddenly develop poor memories when tax collectors ask about each other's assets. How back doors are left unlocked so people can flee through connected courtyards. How the communal oven always seems to have extra bread for those who've been plundered. The evening sacrifice begins at the temple. The shofars blast echoes across the city, momentarily drowning out the tension. Almost as one, Jerusalem exhales. For these few sacred moments, tax collectors pause their work. Even Romans respect the trumpet's call. As prayers rise from homes around you, something shifts. The fear doesn't vanish, but it lessens. Your uncle's shoulders relax slightly. Your aunt returns the coin belt to its hiding place. The soldiers won't come knocking during evening worship. Tonight, at least, there's respite. You notice the prayers tonight aren't just rote recitations. People cling to the words like lifelines. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. The Psalms take on new meaning when death's shadow comes in the form of Roman tax rolls. Later, as you lie awake, you realize why tax collectors are so hated. It's not just the financial ruin. It's the way they turn neighbor against neighbor, the way they poison trust, the way they make people hide their goats and coins instead of sharing them freely. Outside, an owl calls. Somewhere, a baby fusses. Jerusalem sleeps uneasily tonight, but it sleeps. Tomorrow will bring new threats, new calculations, new strategies for survival. But for now, under the watchful stars, there is stillness. The tax collectors will return at dawn. But tonight belongs to prayers whispered in the dark, to families huddled together, to the stubborn hope that somehow, even this burden can be borne. The last thing you hear before sleep takes you is your uncle murmuring the ancient blessing, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one." Simple words. Familiar words. The same words being whispered all across the city tonight, binding frightened hearts together across the darkened rooftops. A different kind of currency, traded not in coins but in faith. The first change isn't in the people, it's in the light. As the sun dips behind the western hills, Jerusalem's white stones turn golden, then pink like embers cooling. The harsh lines of the day soften. Shadows stretch long across the streets. That's when you notice it. Where moments earlier everyone moved with urgent purpose, now there's a slowing. A woman pauses mid-sentence at the well, her water jar forgotten as she turns toward the temple. A potter's wheel creaks to a stop, the wet clay still turning slightly. Even the donkeys seem to sense it, their brain quieting as if someone turned down the city's volume. From the Temple Mount, the shofar sounds, not the piercing alarm of morning, but a deeper, mournful note that hangs in the dusty air. You watch something remarkable happen. Bakers covered in flour step outside their shops, brushing hands absently on aprons as they face the holy site. Merchants close ledger books without finishing their sums. Children stop their games and stand awkwardly, copying parents' postures. Jerusalem becomes a city of statues, all oriented toward that gleaming platform where God's presence dwells. The prayers begin quietly at first, almost shy, an old man's raspy voice chanting ancient words. Then others join, a mother rocking her baby as she murmurs, a carpenter still holding his mallet. Soon the street hums with whispered devotion, each person reciting individually yet creating a collective rhythm. The words are Hebrew, but the longing needs no translation. You notice how bodies transform during prayer. Shoulders that carried burdens all day now stand straighter. Faces tight with worry smoothed slightly. A young laborer near you closes his eyes, his calloused hands opening upward, palms cupped like he's trying to catch something invisible. The setting sun paints stripes of gold across his dusty tunic. Even Romans pause. Two soldiers leaning against a wall stop chatting. One actually removes his helmet, not in worship, but respect. Their centurion glances toward the temple, shifts his weight from foot to foot, then gives his men a nod. They wait. It's one of the few times you've seen occupiers yield to occupied. The prayers follow patterns centuries old. First, gratitude for the day's blessings. Yes, even in Roman-occupied Jerusalem, people find things to thank God for. Then confession, heads bowing slightly. Finally petitions, for sick relatives, for the coming harvest, for deliverance. You hear the same phrases repeated up and down the street like echoes. Hear, O Israel, blessed are you. May it be your will. Winds carry smells from homes where women light Sabbath lamps a day early, olive oil and crushed herbs scenting the cooling air. Somewhere, bread bakes for tomorrow's rest. The combination of aroma and whispered prayers makes your throat tighten unexpectedly. This isn't the performative piety of the temple courts. This is raw, personal devotion served up with the day's last light. A fascinating thing happens as prayers continue. The usual social hierarchies blur. The rich merchant stands shoulder to shoulder with his servant, both reciting the same words. That angry-looking Pharisee you avoided earlier now weeps quietly beside a tax collector. For this moment, neither righteous nor sinner, just fellow travelers before God. Children aren't exempt. A boy no older than 5 pipes up with Amen, at the wrong time, making his father smile instead of scold. A little girl mouths words she clearly doesn't understand yet, her seriousness comical on such a young face. These prayers are their inheritance, passed down like land or trades. As the final Amen whispers through the street, no one moves immediately. There's a collective exhale, as if Jerusalem itself has been holding its breath. Then gradually, quietly, normal life resumes, but softer now. The baker lights his oven more slowly. The carpenter's mallet strikes with less force. Even the hawkers calling last sales do so at half volume. The Romans don their helmets and resume patrol, but their steps lack the usual swagger. One even nods respectfully to an elderly Jew who'd been praying particularly fervently. The old man, startled, nods back. It's a tiny moment. Meaningless, really. And yet, you can't help feeling you've witnessed something sacred. Dusk deepens. Families begin gathering for evening meals. But something lingers in the air, a stillness that wasn't there before prayers. The cacophony of Jerusalem doesn't return full force. Instead, there's an unspoken agreement to let the peace last a little longer. Neighbors speak kindly to one another. Children are indulged instead of scolded. You watch a young couple walk home hand in hand, something you've rarely seen in daylight, where propriety rules. But twilight belongs to softer things. The man carries their sleeping toddler against his shoulder, the child's head lolling trustingly. The woman hums a psalm fragment under her breath. They could be any couple in any century, returning to their nest as darkness falls. The stars appear one by one. Oil lamps flicker to life behind shuttered windows. From a dozen homes, you hear the same blessing chanted over bread, identical words in different voices, weaving a tapestry of thanksgiving across the city. The rhythms here may be ancient, but tonight they feel immediate, vital. As you turn toward home, a realization settles over you. For all its dirt and danger, its Roman boots and grinding poverty, Jerusalem still holds these pockets of holiness. Not in grand temple ceremonies, but in quiet streets where ordinary people pause their labor to remember who they are. Where soldiers bow their heads unbidden. Where the setting sun turns even tax collectors' faces golden with reflected grace. Tomorrow will bring more burden, more struggle. But for now, under these first stars, Jerusalem belongs to its people again, if only for the space of a prayer. The scent of baking bread mixes with night-blooming jasmine as you walk home. Somewhere, a woman sings softly to her child. The shofar's echo lingers in the stones beneath your feet. And for this brief, beautiful moment, all is peace. You collapse onto your sleeping mat, every muscle aching from the day's labor. The rough wool blanket scratches your sunburnt skin as you shift to find a comfortable spot on the hard floor. Just as you settle, your little cousin rolls over and elbows you in the ribs. You bite back a groan. Then you look up through the open roof hole and forget to breathe. The sky isn't black like at home. It's a deep, velvety blue streaked with countless stars. Without electric lights to dim them, they blaze fiercely, not just scattered dots, but swirling clusters so thick they look like spilled milk across the heavens. The longer you stare, the more appear, tiny pinpricks emerging as your eyes adjust. An old man across the room notices your wonder. "Our ancestors walked under these same stars," he whispers. He points to a zigzag pattern overhead. "That's Kessil, the fool. They say God chained him in the sky as a warning." His calloused finger moves to a bright cluster. "And those? The Pleiades. We call them Kema, the gathering of the faithful." Others stir, joining the star lesson despite the late hour. A woman names a formation as her grandmother taught her. Someone hums an ancient song about the moon and stars praising their maker. Even the children quiet down to listen, their dark eyes reflecting celestial light. You learn that farmers use certain star positions to know when to plant. Shepherds track them to predict weather changes. Tonight, their position means barley harvest will come soon. Practical astronomy, passed down through generations not in books, but stories told under open skies. A shooting star streaks across the darkness. The children gasp, but the adults smile patiently. "Happens most nights," your cousin murmurs. Without light pollution, celestial events aren't rare marvels. They're expected parts of the night, like sunset colors. The moon surprises you most. It's not the pale disk you're used to, but a luminous golden sphere so bright it casts shadows. You can clearly see dark patches on its surface. "The baker and his load," the old man explains. Someone jokes that it looks more like Moses carrying stone tablets. Laughter ripples through the room, soft as a night breeze. Someone begins telling the story of Abraham, how God promised his descendants would number like these stars. As the tale unfolds, you notice how often stars appear in their sacred stories. A sign for Gideon, Joseph's dream, the eastward leading star of Bethlehem that hasn't appeared yet in this timeline. The heavens are their storybook, their calendar, their nightly reminder of promises kept. Your eyelids grow heavy, but you fight sleep, captivated by the view. At home, you might see a dozen stars on a clear night. Here, there are thousands, no, millions. Some twinkle violently, others burn steady as lanterns. A few even show faint colors, blue, red, golden. The weight of time presses on you. These exact stars shone over David as he wrote Psalms, over Ruth in the barley fields, over Moses at the Red Sea. That crescent moon? It's the same phase Abraham saw when God made covenant with him. The celestial clock keeps perfect time across centuries. Your cousin nudges you and points to a particularly bright star near the horizon. "That's Venus," she says. "We call it the morning star when it appears before dawn." You'll think of this years later when you hear Jesus say, "I am the bright morning star." But tonight, it's just another wonder in a sky full of them. As sleep claims you, the last thing you see is a fat, sleepy toddler crawling onto his mother's lap to gaze upward. She guides his small finger, teaching him his first constellation. Neither of them knows that millennia later, telescopes will map galaxies far beyond these ancient names. But perhaps it wouldn't matter if they did. The comfort isn't in scientific understanding. It's in the simple act of a mother passing down what her mother taught her under this same faithful sky. You wake later to find the house dark and still. Through the roof hole, the stars have shifted position, nature's clock marking the night's passing. A cool breeze carries the scent of jasmine from some hidden courtyard vine. As you lie there, something unexpected happens. Gratitude rises in your chest, not for ancient hardships, but for modern comforts. The ability to flip a switch for light, padded mattresses, soundproof walls. These aren't just conveniences, they're luxuries unimagined by the sleepers around you. The stars seem to whisper this truth as they shine unchanging through the centuries. Hardship isn't holy in itself, but neither is comfort. What matters is what we do with both. How we keep faith under crowded roofs and spacious houses alike. How we pass down stories whether we can see the stars or not. Your little cousin sighs in his sleep, rolling over to clutch your arm. Above him, the Milky Way stretches like a dusty road across the heavens. Somewhere out there, Future generations will look up at these same stars through glass skyscraper windows or from cushioned patio chairs. The arrangements will have shifted slightly. Stars don't hold perfectly still over thousands of years. But the essential beauty remains. You close your eyes, feeling the hard floor beneath you, the child's warm weight against your side, the peace of a family sleeping safe under God's promises written in light. Tomorrow's work will come soon enough. But tonight, this night, there are stars to dream under, more than anyone could count, more brilliant than any city dweller could imagine, more constant than empires or temples or even Jerusalem itself. And somehow, that's enough. Your cousin's voice starts low, almost hesitant. The psalm she sings isn't one of celebration but of yearning, a quiet melody about waiting for dawn when the night feels endless. Her fingers move absently as she spins wool, the rhythm matching the song's slow cadence. Something remarkable happens. A neighbor across the courtyard takes up the next verse. Then another voice joins from further down the street, a weathered rasp belonging to the old water carrier who never speaks much. Soon the entire neighborhood hums with overlapping voices, each singing slightly differently yet somehow in harmony. No one planned this. No choir director cues them. They simply recognize a shared prayer when they hear it. These aren't professional singers. Notes go flat. Words get mumbled. Some voices crack with age while others trill with youthful energy. But the imperfections matter far less than the unity. Romans may rule the streets by day, but tonight these alleys belong to something older. The stubborn faith binding this community together. You watch hands reach for one another in the firelight. Work-roughened fingers lace together naturally, comfortably, the way people touch when they've endured much side by side. A widow rubs circles on her neighbor's back where pain often gathers. No words accompany the gesture, none are needed. Choirs never sounded like this back home. Not really. Professional groups practice for perfection, polished voices blending seamlessly. But these untrained voices feel different. Raw, real. Each crack and wobble tells a story. Years hauling water, shouting over market noise, breathing Jerusalem's dust. The trust required to sing together when everything else wants to tear you apart. The song changes as someone starts a new psalm, one about green pastures and quiet waters. Everyone shifts effortlessly into the familiar words. Children nestled in laps join key phrases they've memorized through repetition. Even toddlers try mimicking the sounds, their innocent babbling blending with ancient Hebrew. You notice something about communal suffering. It makes boundaries disappear. The woman who yelled at a neighbor yesterday for borrowing without asking now holds that same neighbor's hand. The man who haggled ruthlessly over figs this morning gently corrects a youngster's mispronounced verse instead of scolding. Survival strips away pretenses, revealing worn hearts underneath. As the singing continues, shuffling sounds come from nearby houses. Shutters open slightly. Faces appear briefly in doorways, too shy to join but clearly listening. The music isn't just entertainment, it's medicine for weary souls. Like cool water on blistered feet after a long walk. Sometimes words fade altogether, leaving just humming. Deep male voices providing bass tones beneath the melodies. Wool continues spinning. Bread dough still rises by the fire. Life's work doesn't pause for this worship. It becomes worship. When voices finally trail off, the silence that follows isn't awkward. It settles comfortably like a shared blanket. Someone sighs contentedly. Another stifles a yawn. Normal nighttime sounds return. A donkey's huff, distant laughter from the next street over, the crackle of cooling embers. Yet something lingers. A sense that whatever tomorrow brings, Roman taxes, back-breaking chores, aching hunger, tonight demonstrated this truth. No one here fights alone. They carry each other's burdens in ways both obvious and subtle. Through songs, through shared chores, through watching for tax collectors so others can hide precious grain. Your cousin nudges you as she sets aside her spinning. She doesn't say anything profound, just points out how the stars seem brighter tonight. But you understand what she isn't saying. That beauty persists even in hardship. That faith grows strongest where roots must dive deepest to find water. That survival depends less on individual strength than communal resilience. Across the courtyard, two women begin clearing supper dishes together. One is young, newlywed. The other lost her husband years ago to a Roman work gang. They move in practiced harmony, the older directing with subtle nods, the younger learning through imitation. The tradition of shared labor passes quietly between generations. You realize this hard life has cultivated something precious. Not the self-sufficiency modern culture prizes, but interdependence, the recognition that everyone contributes something vital, whether it's strong arms for hauling or soothing songs for weary nights. The evening breeze carries snatches of conversation from nearby rooftops where families still sit under the stars. Laughter mingles with quiet talk of tomorrow's tasks. No one mentions Roman patrols or unpaid taxes. Not tonight. Tonight is for resting in the knowledge that whatever dawn brings, this neighborhood will face it together, just as they faced today and yesterday and all the difficult days before. As you prepare for sleep, someone begins humming again. Softly now, almost absent-mindedly. A child joins in with made-up words. The tune meanders, sometimes pausing for yawns, but never fully stopping. It continues as lamps dim throughout the house, as bodies settle onto thin mats, as the last wakers finally drift off. Long after sleep claims most, that faint melody lingers, a whisper of hope against the night. A reminder that Jerusalem still stands not just because of stones and mortar, but because its people know how to bear weight together. How to turn suffering into song. How to keep faith alive through shared struggle when solitary faith would surely perish. Morning will come soon enough with its harsh realities. But tonight, just for tonight, there is this. Voices lifted in imperfect unison, hands clasped without ceremony, and the quiet certainty that no one walks this hard road alone. Your little cousin nestles closer in sleep, her small fingers gripping your sleeve. Outside, an owl calls. The last ember pops. Somewhere down the street, a baby fusses briefly before being soothed. Jerusalem breathes in and out around you, alive with all its wounds and wonders. And for this fleeting moment between sunset and dawn, there is peace. There is belonging. There is togetherness strong enough to outlast empires. Your eyelids grow heavy at last, the scratch of straw against your cheek as familiar now as soft pillows once were. In this twilight between waking and dreaming, the day's lessons settle into your bones. What you called faith back home needed no courage, just Sunday mornings and pleasant thoughts. But here, belief is carved from sweat and blistered hands, shaped by Roman boots and empty bellies, refined in the crucible of daily survival. True holiness, you realize, doesn't live in grand cathedrals or leather-bound books. It lives in your cousin singing psalms while kneading tomorrow's bread. In your aunt saving her last olive for a hungry neighbor. In the way these people bless God for simple barley as their joints ache from grinding it. Their worship isn't theory. It's the breath that keeps them going when every muscle screams to stop. Historical scholars would call this hardship. Anthropologists would note how scarcity shapes spirituality. But lying here, breathing air thick with smoke and humanity, you understand something deeper. Difficulty doesn't make faith stronger, necessity does. When hauling water means life or death, when prayers must sustain you through Roman whips, belief stops being philosophy and becomes survival strategy. Your fingers absently trace the callus forming where the water jug wore blisters earlier. Tomorrow they'll be darker, tougher, like the hands you've seen all week on farmers, weavers, brickmakers. Hands that could belong to any biblical character suddenly feel deeply personal. That shepherd boy David didn't sling stones with soft fingers. Ruth gleaning in Boaz's field didn't worry about manicures. The reality of their lives, the actual feel of Scripture, settles over you heavier than any wool blanket. Beside you, your little cousin murmurs in sleep, clutching the frayed doll you helped her restuff with straw today. Her absolute trust that tomorrow will come, that bread will bake, that prayers will rise, that the family will still be here, humbles you. Your modern anxieties about retirement funds and career goals seem laughable compared to her simple confidence that God provides daily bread. Because here, that's not a metaphor. It's the urgent prayer accompanying every handful of grain. Through the roof hole, stars wink between drifting smoke. These same lights guided Abraham to Canaan, calmed Jethmane's terror, will one day announce a Bethlehem birth. Their constancy comforts in ways electric lights never could. You think of the elderly neighbor who thanked God tonight for feet that could still walk to synagogue despite swollen joints. Of the mother who praised him for one more day with her sick child. Modern gratitude journals seem pale imitations of this raw, desperate thanksgiving. Tomorrow, when you wake, these realizations will crystallize further. That indoor plumbing isn't just convenient, it's miraculous. That supermarkets represent unthinkable abundance. That silence and solitude are luxuries these people can't fathom. Yet somehow, against all odds, their faith burns brighter than yours ever has with all its modern comforts. The scent of last night's lentils lingers in the house, mixing with wood smoke and the ever-present dust. You press your face into the scratchy blanket, breathing deeply. This is what Scripture smells like, not leather and ink, but sweat and smoke and hard-won bread. The Bible never mentions air conditioning or orthopedic shoes because its people carried heavier burdens without them. Your last waking thought isn't of hardship, though. It's of the laughter around the shared supper bowl, of the way your aunt kissed your forehead after you hauled water without complaint, of the peace in your uncle's voice as he recited ancient prayers from memory. Difficulty might shape these people, but joy sustains them. And that might be the greatest lesson Jerusalem teaches. Across the room, someone shifts in sleep. Outside, a night bird calls. The city rests briefly before another day of Roman occupation and backbreaking labor dawns. But in this quiet moment, you grasp the gift you've been given, eyes to see both past and present clearly. A deep thankfulness wells up, not just for modern comforts waiting at home, but for the chance to understand how richly faith can flourish without them. Perhaps true perspective is seeing that both realities hold truth. That smartphone notifications and temple sacrifices represent different expressions of human need for connection. That leisure time and shared survival each cultivate their own wisdom. That God meets us where we are, whether in air-conditioned churches or dusty Jerusalem courtyards. The stars continue their slow dance across the sky, witnesses to generations of pilgrims who came, saw, and were forever changed. You'll join their number soon, returning home with blisters that will heal and memories that won't. But the greatest souvenir Jerusalem gives isn't knowledge about the past. It's visceral understanding that faith isn't meant to be observed, but lived one difficult, beautiful, holy day at a time. Sleep comes fully now, wrapping you in the peace of a hard day's honest work. Somewhere beyond these walls, a shepherd keeps watch over his flock. The temple stones cool until dawn. Prayers whispered throughout the city rise like incense. And you rest between worlds for a few precious hours, cradled by ancient wisdom and modern revelation alike, richer for having touched both. Tomorrow, when you turn on a faucet or enjoy a quiet moment alone, remember the hands that hold water from distant wells, the straw mats that served as beds, the crowded rooms where privacy didn't exist. The Holy Land wasn't made holy by perfect people in perfect comfort, but by ordinary people who found God in the dust, who praised Him with blistered hands and aching backs, who kept faith when Roman boots marched past their doors. Their struggles shaped the scriptures we read so easily today. God bless you, and may you sleep with new gratitude for both ancient faith and modern blessings. Sweet dreams.